I am Reed. I am 27, just an average dude. I've made tons of money mistakes in my 20s, and now I want to share everything I've learned to help you take control of your finances and your life. All right, let's talk about something that honestly sounds like a conspiracy theory, but is actually real. You might have heard the news that Kevin Walsh is taking over as Fed Chair in 2026, replacing Jerome Powell, and there's all this buzz about him having a plan to quietly erase $39 trillion of U.S. debt. And I get it when you first hear that it sounds insane, right? I mean, you can just delete debt and pretend it never happened. That would be a default, the biggest default in history. America can just say, hey, sorry, we're not paying you back. That would destroy the country's reputation, and the whole global financial system would collapse. But here, that's what most people don't. Realize you don't have to officially default to get rid of debt there. It's a much quieter way to do it, and America has done it before. I am talking about financial repression. It's a fancy term, but the idea is simple. You keep interest rates lower than inflation, so over time, the value of your debt just shrinks. You're not technically defaulting because you're still making your payments, but those payments are in dollars that are worth less and less every year. It's like if you borrowed $10 from a friend in 1990 and paid him back in 2024. That $10 is still $10, but it buys way less than it used to. Your friend got paid back technically, but he lost money in real terms. And this isn't just some random theory. It literally happened before. After World War II, U.S. debt was astronomical. It was over 100% of GDP. Everyone thought America would default, but instead, the government kept interest rates low, let inflation run a little hot, and over the next few decades, the debt just melted away. By 1974, the debt to GDP ratio had dropped to about 23%. Did the economy grow like crazy during that time? Sure, some. But according to research from the Economic Policy Center, most of that debt reduction came from financial repression, not from economic growth. And here's the brutal part. The people who got crushed during that period were the savers. The people who worked hard, put money in the bank, and did everything right. If you saved $10,000 in 1946 and just left it in cash by 1980, its real purchasing power was down to about $2,100. You lost 80% of your wealth without ever spending a dime. The government basically taxed you without you ever noticing. And now we're looking at history repeating itself. The U.S. debt is over $39 trillion and it's growing fast. The interest payments alone are over $1.2 trillion a year. That's more than the U.S. spends on defense, healthcare, or anything else. And here's the scary part. In 2025, about $9.2 trillion of that debt is maturing. That means the government has to refinance it at today's interest rates, which are way higher than the rates from a few years ago. You know how when your mortgage rate resets and your monthly payment shoots up, that's basically what's happening to the U.S. government, but on a massive scale. So the pressure to cut rates is huge. Donald Trump was pushing for rate cuts hard while he was in office, and now Kevin Walsh is stepping in and he's even more aggressive about it. He said publicly that the Fed should have cut rates faster. He wants rates down to around 2.75 to 3%, maybe even lower. But here's the problem. Cutting rates usually causes inflation to spike, and with oil prices already rising thanks to instability in the Middle East, inflation is already creeping up. So how do you cut rates without reigniting? Inflation Walsh has a two-part answer, and honestly, it's kind of brilliant but also kind of terrifying. First, he has talked about rethinking the Fed's approach to inflation. He has criticized the whole 2% inflation target, calling it a self-imposed trap. He wants a more flexible framework in plain English. That means he's okay with inflation running higher than 2%. If inflation is at 3 or 4% and interest rates are at 2 or 2.5%, then you get that negative real interest rate situation, which is exactly what financial repression needs to work. The debt shrinks over time and savers get quietly wiped out. Second, he is betting on AI to keep prices down in the long run. The idea is that AI will boost productivity so much that companies can produce more for less, and that will keep inflation in check even with low interest rates. A lawyer who used to handle 1 case an hour can now handle 10 with AI help, so the cost per case goes down. Same for accountants, engineers, and all kinds of knowledge workers. In theory, that sounds great. The problem is that AI is there yet. Right now, AI is mostly driving massive capital spending, building data centers, power plants, and server farms that's actually pushing costs up in the short term. So Walsh's AI argument might work in 5 or 10 years, but it doesn't help him cut rates today without risking inflation. He knows that. That's why he has a backup plan, and that backup plan is financial repression. If AI saves the day, great. If not, they just let inflation run a little hot and let the debt slowly disappear. Either way, now let me get real with you about what this actually means for regular people like you and me. I am not some Wall Street expert. I am just a 27-year-old guy who used to be a complete mess with money. I was living paycheck to paycheck, I was using credit cards to pay for stuff I couldn't afford, and I was basically ignoring my future completely. I had no savings, no plan, and no clue what I was doing. Sound familiar? It took me hitting a wall and realizing that my 20s were not just for having fun, they were actually the most important years for setting myself up. So I started learning. I read books, I followed smart people, I stopped treating money like a dirty word, and I fixed my habits piece by piece. I paid off my debt, I built an emergency fund, and I started saving and investing consistently. Nothing fancy, just boring, consistent stuff that actually works. And I am still learning every day. That's why I'm making this video. Because what is happening right now with Walsh and the Fed, it's going to affect all of us, whether we pay attention or not. If you just keep your money in a savings account earning 1 or 2% while inflation is eating away at it every single year, you're going to lose purchasing power without even realizing it. That's how financial repression gets you. It's quiet, it's slow, and it's invisible. You don't wake up one day and find your bank account empty. You just slowly notice that your money doesn't go as far as it used to. You feel like you reworking just as hard, but you falling behind that. That's not your imagination, that's policy working exactly as designed. So what do you do about it? The answer is simple to say, but harder to do. You have to own assets. You cannot just hold cash during that post-war period. From 1946 to 1980, the people who owned stocks, real estate, gold, or other hard assets got richer and richer while cash holders got crushed. The same thing is happening now. We're in what people call a K-shaped economy, where the rich get richer because they own assets that go up and everyone else falls further behind, because all they have is wages that don't keep up and savings that lose value. The top 10% of Americans already own like 90% of the wealth. If we go through another decade of financial repression, that gap is only going to get bigger. Now, I am not saying go out and YOLO your money into crypto or meme stocks or whatever the hype train is this week. That's not what I am about. I am a boring guy. I like boring investments that work over time, but you need to be in things that actually grow with inflation or faster. Real estate is a classic one, especially if you have a fixed rate mortgage at a low rate. If you locked in a 3% mortgage a few years ago, congratulations, you have one of the best assets out there, because inflation is going to make that loan cheaper and cheaper to pay back while your property value and rental income go up. You literally profit from the system the bank loses. That's wild when you think about it, but it's true. Stocks too. The S&P 500 has historically outpaced inflation over the long term. Gold and Bitcoin, some people swear by them, but they re-volatile, and I wouldn't go all in on anything that crazy. But a small allocation can make sense as a hedge. The important thing is to own something that produces value or appreciates over time. Don't just leave your money sitting in a bank account earning nothing while the Fed quietly prints away its value. And look, I know not everyone has a ton of money to invest. I've been there when I was paying off debt and building my emergency fund. I had basically nothing left over for investing. That's okay. You start small. You automate a little bit every paycheck, even if it's just $50 over time, it adds up. The most important thing is just to start and to stay consistent. Don't try to time the market. Don't chase hot tips. Don't panic when things drop. Just keep buying good assets and let time do the work. I also want to talk about debt for a second. If you have high interest debt like credit cards, you should still try to pay that off first. That's emergency stuff and it's dragging you down. But if you have a low fixed rate mortgage or a low rate student loan or something like that, you actually might not want to rush to pay it off. I know that sounds counterintuitive because we retaught that debt is bad and you should get rid of it as fast as possible. But when inflation is running higher than your interest rate, your debt is actually getting cheaper to pay back over time. The real value of what you owe is shrinking. If you pay it off early, you basically losing that benefit. So run the numbers and think about what makes sense for your situation. Don't just follow generic advice without understanding the context. This whole thing with Walsh and the Fed is going to play out over years, not days. Financial repression is a slow burn. It took 35 years last time. It might take 10 or 15 this time around, but the pattern is already set. And the people who understand what's happening are going to position themselves to come out ahead while everyone else just wonders why life keeps getting more expensive. I'll be honest with you, I don't have all the answers. I am still figuring stuff out just like you, but I've made it my mission to learn what's really going on and to share it in a way that doesn't make your eyes glaze over. I'm not here to sell you a course or a newsletter or some secret system. I am just a regular guy trying to help other regular people not get screwed over by a system that's designed to take advantage of people who aren't paying attention. So here's what I say to you right now. Start paying attention to the bigger picture. Don't let your money rot in cash. Find ways to own real assets, even if it's just a little bit at a time. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and don't trust anyone who promises you a quick fix. The people who win in times like these are the ones who are patient, informed, and consistent. That's the game. That's how you stay in the top half of that K-curve instead of falling off the bottom. I'm going to keep talking about this stuff in future videos, so if you vibe with this at all, hit that like button and subscribe. I am just a 27-year-old guy trying to figure out how to build a decent life, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Take care of your money, take care of yourself, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.